See myself reflected.
Illuminati is a thing you need to watch out for. They want to depopulate and slave us so much more. World domination, I'll get into that later. I'm hardcore, fierce and sexy. You're just a hater. You deserve the ridicule because you're an absolute zero. I'm the keeper of the chalice, a rock and roll hero. I'm not an idiot nobody listens to, because I'm not a failure in life like you. Let's talk about Bill Gates and the mark of the beast, and the orgies in the streets at the Catholic feasts, and Bill and Hillary's human trafficking ring, and George Soros got the money to pay for everything. Socialism is for losers, working for the devil, chumps that can't fight, they ain't on my level. It takes an evil one to try to debunk and doubt it, so I'd rather die than stop talking about it. Watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out. Watch out for the Illuminati. Watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out. Watch out for the Illuminati. Watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out. Watch out for the Illuminati. Watch out for the Illuminati.
You're watching the MC Too Tall Show with your hardcore, fierce, and sexy host, MC Too Tall. And with all the wokeness and weirdness going on out there, you are now where normality and morality live. Right here on my channel with the MC Too Tall Show. Now we're going to talk about two Jews that died in a stabbing overseas. Two unnamed Jews that died in a stabbing overseas in a UK synagogue. So in Manchester, England, a man drives his vehicle into a synagogue on the high holy day of Yom Kippur, where there are a lot of people in there praying, jumps out of the vehicle, starts stabbing people. And two died in this stabbing. And the man is identified as fat, bearded, balding, and with glasses. And they say his name was Jihad. And Jihad died because of gunfire. Apparently, members of the police force in England can carry firearms. And so guns save the lives of so many more people that could have been stabbed to death. This doesn't help the argument for a completely unarmed citizenry, because I believe if there was an armed civilian in that synagogue, as soon as that knife came out, that person would have been justifiably popped. And if he would have died, then he would have died, but at least people that didn't deserve to die would not have had to die. So, let's bring gun rights back to the civilians of Great Britain, United Kingdom, England. Let's bring gun rights back to those people. And different country, let's open the possibility of different laws where you have to be either British born or naturalized British citizen of more than 15 years to own and operate a firearm. Let's do that, England. Get on the ball here and do something like that. Your streets will be much safer. Your homes will be much safer if you do that. I'm personally all in for that, and I guarantee you there'd be a lot less bloodshed in jolly old England if you do that. So I'm glad I covered this story because you have literally a jihadist named Jihad attacking Jews with a knife. Showing up Jewish doesn't mean you deserve to die, okay? Wanting to exist as a Jew doesn't mean you deserve to die. Anti Semitism is real. I'm not Jewish, but I especially dislike that particular brand of bigotry. Racism's bad. Sex discrimination is bad. Persecution, even for sexual orientation, is bad. But anti Semitism, I see as something not on an equal plane with other forms of bigotry. And it should be dealt with more swiftly and more harshly. Because the Jewish people as a whole have gone through enough. They don't deserve that. At the same time, more credit has to go to those Jewish people who call out the Kabbalah poses that have infiltrated prominent organizations affiliated with the Jewish faith, and meanwhile they themselves may convey that they're Jewish in some way, shape, or form, but are really members of the Illuminati. So it's not the Jews that are a higher secret society than the Illuminati. The Illuminati is the higher, not specifically Adam Weishaupt's organization, but this whole conglomerate of secret societies is not subservient to the Jews. Members of the various fraternities of this conglomerate may claim that they're Jewish, but the whole conglomerate of secret societies is not subservient to the Jews. It's not all our problems ought to be blamed squarely on the Jews. It's not like that. It's not like we're in a situation where what this man named Jihad did in England is justified. But because there are people from the conglomerate of secret societies that claim that they're Jewish, but do very un-Jew-like things that are not compatible with their Judaism that they profess to have, the Jews as a whole are blamed for it. And shout out to those far and few between Jews that call these bastards out on it. The Rothschilds are historically monsters. George Soros is inherently a monster. That's not picking on the Jews. That's calling out people posing as Jews. So that when you call them out for their monstrosities and their abominations, they have some sort of leverage to claim you're just picking on them because they're Jewish. And people fall right into that trap. If George Soros was really a Jew, he would not have thrown people under the bus under the guise that he was a scared 14-year-old that thought the Nazis would kill him. He made deals with the Nazis. He approached the Nazis, made deals with them willfully, willingly, not fearing for his life if he had done otherwise, and got paid very well from it at a very young age, which is why he's sitting on billions right now to this very day. And he's using those billions against you. But you have deranged people that look at the George Soroses of the world and say, that's the Jews. Now, not every Israeli prime minister that served as Israeli prime minister is an evil man. Do I believe the nation of Israel is some corporate, slapped together entity put together by the United Nations and the Rothschilds of England? Yes, absolutely it is. It is not it sits where the original Holy Land was, but it is not a nation that properly represents holiness. However, now that it's here, it might as well continue to exist, but not necessarily as it still does. Let it be as inclusive as it professes to be. It has the right to defend itself without throwing its weight around. Because I'm okay with saying that there should be a place in the Middle East for all Jews, whether they have Middle Eastern origin or European origin, to refuge to. I'm okay with them even calling that place in the Middle East Israel. What I'm not okay with is being subservient to an Illuminati pet project, which is what I believe this version of Israel was founded on, but has the potential to be something so much better, like the United States. The United States was an experiment by secret societies, by Freemasons, and all of our founding fathers, a good 98% of our founding forefathers were members of secret societies. They were Freemasons. I believe John Adams wanted nothing to do with secret societies, but Jefferson, Washington, Madison, Monroe, they were down. Franklin, they were all down with some form or another of secret society. And this was supposed to be an experiment. And if this worked out properly, this would have been the New World Order. But several generations later, they started to see, hey, these guys have a little bit too much control. Let's manipulate things and take away their freedom piece by piece by piece. This way we seize back the sovereignty of the individual man. And then some people do this under the guise of Judaism and Zionism. It is a front, it is a facade. They're not real Jews don't do this. Real Jews simply practice Judaism. They don't practice manipulation of the world. These are members of various fraternities of the mystery schools that work under the guise of Judaism, just so they could say you're discriminating against them when you call them out on it. So when you call these people out with these Jewish sounding names, you must also point out that they are not Jewish, and you're not doing this because they're Jewish, because it's not being Jewish that has to be a part of. In other words, you don't have to participate in this stuff to be Jewish. It's like it's possible to be Jewish without participating in all this stuff. It's even possible to be Zionist without participating in all this stuff. So call it for what it is. Go after the people that parade under that Jewish facade or that Zionist facade, but not because they are Zionists, but because they're posing as Jewish and Zionist people. Just like there are people that pose as Catholics and Christians that practice very un-Christian, un-Catholic things. I'm not one of those people, but those people are out there and they do exist. And there are people that profess to be devout Muslims, but a devout Muslim is not part of the trans ideology agenda. A devout Muslim wouldn't be down with the woke agenda. They'd be okay with other people perpetuating it so that they could take over, but they wouldn't act like they themselves are somehow a member of it. True Italian American Catholics wouldn't knowingly cram infected COVID patients into nursing homes. They wouldn't cram infected COVID patients into nursing homes, killing thousands of senior citizens, and then blame God for it. And let me tell you this, okay? You need to hear this. Listen to me clearly. Let's pause for a second. This way you take it in what I'm about to say. You ready? Voting for the man who is squarely responsible for cramming infected COVID patients into nursing homes, killing thousands of senior citizens, and then blaming God for it is not the vote that will save New York City. Casting that vote for Andrew Cuomo is not saving New York City. You're making New York City worse than it is, whether you vote for Cuomo or Mamdani. Voting for the man squarely responsible for the bail reform that brought us this rampant crime runs rampant because of the Democrats, is not saving New York City. Claiming a vote for Curtis Sliwa is a wasted vote is not saving New York City. Voting for Curtis Sliwa is the only thing that will save New York City. Oh, the polls. You know what? If you're surrounded by liberals, don't vote among them, regardless of which of these two shitheads the liberals are voting for. The liberals are going to vote either for Cuomo or Mamdani no matter what. And if you're surrounded by liberals, vote for the Republican anyway. I mean, we have no real conservative. We have no real conservative in this race. But Curtis Sliwa won the Republican nomination, and his policies and proposals are in line with the Republican Party. And the official Republican candidate should not bow out of the race. It should be the Republican versus the Democrat, not the defected Democrat versus the Democrat, not the defected Democrat that's running as an independent only because he got bitch slapped, effectively losing the nomination to who is now the official Democrat candidate versus that official Democrat candidate. It should be Republican versus Democrat in this race. So if anybody needs to bow out, it's Andrew Cuomo. He's the one with the tremendous ego who is a sore loser, who had gotten beaten by Mamdani already in this election cycle. And his body of work as governor caused him to get bitch slapped by Mamdani in the primaries. Okay? It is Eric Adams' body of work that caused Eric Adams not to do well in these elections. He decided early on to run as an independent. He was an independent before Cuomo was. That's why you didn't see him in those debates for mayor, for the Democratic nomination. You saw Cuomo there, but not Adams, because Cuomo initially ran as a Democrat and got his ass handed to him. And so you got to go with who you believe will do the better job as mayor. Andrew Cuomo will not do a better job than Curtis Sliwa as mayor. Well, how do you know? Curtis Sliwa was never mayor, neither was Andrew Cuomo. But somebody with no body of work is better than someone with a bad body of work. Eric Adams, bad body of work, didn't do well in the polling, didn't do well in the race, period, had to drop out. Andrew Cuomo had a bad body of work as governor of New York. He was the governor of the state of New York. He crammed COVID patients into nursing homes, killing off thousands of senior citizens. He signed the Bail Reform Act that's allowing for crime to run rampant. And of course, that didn't help that Bill de Blasio was the mayor. Okay? And then finally, that son of a bitch bastard started getting sleazy with women half his age, slobbering all over them, giving them sloppy, wet kisses on the neck and drooling all in their ear, spanking them on the ass, causing him to have to resign in disgrace. And so he resigns in disgrace, leaving the reins to Kathy Huckster Hochul. So he is, in effect, responsible for giving us this horrible governor, this huckster of a governor, Kathy Hochul. Oh, and by the way, shout out to Bill O'Reilly, by the way. Andrew Cuomo appointed Chinese spies to his administration, and Kathy Hochul kept them on staff. Espionage is a crime. These people worked under not one but two Democratic gubernatorial administrations, and thus More proof in the pudding. Crime runs rampant because of the Democrats. And so, even after leaving office, he left behind a present of Chinese communist espionage in the gubernatorial staff, and Kathy Hochul just kept them right there. I believe their name was Sun. So voting for Andrew Cuomo is not saving New York. It's making matters worse than they already are. Whether Mamdani or Cuomo wins, the city is worse off. So don't vote for worse to avoid worse when better is available. And people say, yeah, Cuomo did all this evil shit. He's a devil, but he's the devil you know versus the devil you don't know. Why choose among devils when you can support a guardian angel? That guardian angel, of course, is Curtis Sliwa. Now let's talk public safety. Public safety, even more so than affordability, is priority one. And you cannot deny it. People are scared to go out in the streets at night. Grown, healthy men are scared to go out in the streets at night because anybody could just come around the corner with a broken bottle, a knife, a gun. And let's face it, this generation, they didn't ride the trains in the 70s and 80s like we did. They never had to experience taking off their leather jacket and wrapping it around their arm to fight off a junkie with a knife on the train. They didn't have to deal with stuff like that. So they're not used to this kind of chaos. And back in those days, at least they were doing it because they want your money. Nowadays, these sickos are doing it because they want to post a cool TikTok video of themselves kicking some random person's ass without any care whether the person whose ass they're kicking lives or dies. As long as they get that clout, they get them views. So the motivation behind the violence is even more twisted in this day and age. And so public safety. Obviously, Andrew Cuomo doesn't care about public safety. If he cared about public safety, he would have cared about the safety of those senior citizens that he personally killed off and blamed God for. And you can look back at the press conferences. That son of a bitch, bastard, demonic, evil man blamed God for the death he caused. He also signed the bail reform, as I said. Crime running rampant ever since. So obviously, Andrew Cuomo does not care about public safety. He will do nothing about public safety as mayor because he's already proven how god-awful he is on public safety when he was governor. Zohran Mamdani. You already know where he stands. He wants to keep things as is. He wants to deplete the police department even further than it already is. The police department is about 1,000 cops light. No, I'm sorry, about 10,000 cops light. So we need at least about anywhere between 8 and 10,000 cops more. But he wants to deplete it by another 5,000 cops, another 5,000, 5,500 more cops. Because he's a sick man. He wants to replace the cops with social workers. But meanwhile, when he goes out to rallies and things like that, he is surrounded not by social workers with clipboards, but by armed security with AK-47s. So, as per usual, in typical communist fashion, Zoran Mamdani is a hypocrite when it comes to public safety. All for me, none for thee, when it comes to safety and security and well-being. All for me, not for thee. That's the way of Zoran the Commie. Now, let's look at Curtis Sliwa. When he decided to take a stand on behalf of public safety, he wasn't the mayor, he wasn't a DA, he wasn't an AG, hell, he wasn't even a cop, but he was sick and tired of all the unexplained, unreasonable criminal violence going on around him. He could have just kept his nose into his work and just flipped burgers at McDonald's, or delegated the flipping of burgers at McDonald's, and minded his business and let the crime rate continue to spiral out of control. And he did something different, though. He formed what later became the most recognized anti-crime task force possibly in the whole world. And that, of course, is the Guardian Angels. Him and 11 other people just banded together and said, we're sick and tired of this. We're going to start fighting crime. We're going to take up some karate classes. We're going to do this unarmed so that there's no excuse for people to say we're killing people. We're going to take down bad guys, make citizens arrests. We're going to apprehend people, detain them in a citizen's arrest kind of fashion, and call the authorities to have it picked up. And that was the tactic of the Guardian Angels. And when did he do all this? Let's see. What was Andrew Cuomo doing? Oh, he was a snot-nosed college kid, barely getting his diploma at Fordham U when this was going on. Where was Zoran Mamdani when all this was going on? Oh, yeah. He wouldn't be born. He wouldn't exist on this earth for decades when that was going on. So Curtis Sliwa had invested his life into public safety, while one of his opponents was some snot-nosed kid barely crawling out of Fordham U by the skin of his teeth, and his other opponent wasn't even born yet. So, public safety priority one. Let's go with the number one guy who dedicated his life to public safety. Not these two assholes. And to avoid being an asshole, I recommend the following. Respect God. Watch out for the Illuminati. Definitely like, follow, share, comment, subscribe. Stay strong, keep kicking that slang. This concludes this episode of the MC Too Tall Show. It's your boy in the building, hip-hop legend, recording engineer, underground rock and roll hero, MC Too Tall. You be safe out there.